They didn't exactly stick the landing, but I dug it. What's up, everybody? So, this is my thoughts on Daniel Craig's final James Bond movie. This has been delayed for a very long time because I just was down for the count with a bad case of flu for the last couple of weeks. But feeling better now, and having said that, I kind of like this one. I definitely liked it better than Spectre. It definitely doesn't get up to the heights of Casino Royale or Skyfall, but there are a lot of things about No Time to Die that I really, really like. So let's start with those things before I get into my criticism, shall we? So, if you haven't seen No Time to Die, it's the final installment of the Daniel Craig arc as James Bond. And it basically tries to wrap everything up in a nice tiny little bow, even though I doubt very much that they went into it thinking we're going to make this a 5 movie story arc. Be that as it may, it has all the tropes and conventions of a normal James Bond movie. Big baddie, love interest, but they try to add something new and fresh to it, which was cool. Uh, Big action sequences, big spectacles, uh, and a fun ride. Now, let's go through some of the things that I really liked. Okay, Daniel Craig turned in a brilliant performance as per usual. I think he's the one of the few Bond uh, interpretations that really show some depth to it. George Lazenby, I thought, had a really interesting, one movie arc where they tried to do something a little bit different with James Bond, in that particular case, him getting married. Timothy Dalton, which I think is the most underrated James Bond of all time, really showed a little bit more of the personal darkness that somebody in his position as a spy would experience. But with this one, they tried a whole lot. You can even consider Casino Royale not a real James Bond movie because it didn't really have yet any of the things that we've come to know and love about James Bond. But by the time we get to No Time to Die, it's all kind of set in stone, including, as I previously mentioned, the villain, the beautiful girls, the great action sequences, the bigness of it all. And so Daniel Craig does his job. The action sequences are absolutely incredible. I loved the overture, as they say, when basically James Bond goes to the grave of Vesper Lind, and while he's there, it blows up, and that begins the whole action sequence of him being chased down by some guys along with the love interest, Elizabeth Swann. There's that great moment, that great wide shot of him on the bridge, well, actually, technically below the bridge on the motorcycle, and he rides up and then on the side of the bridge to get on to the street itself. Just beautifully captured, very exciting. You have when he, on that same bridge, basically jumps off holding a cable and he swings down. That was just dope in the way it was done. Anna de Armas, even though I wish she was in this a little bit more, but I like the idea every time of, leave the audience wanting more. So it definitely gave me those vibes. She was incredible in it. She was likable. She was exciting. She was dangerous. She was believable. And as soon as I saw it, I think it was not too long that the news of her having her own John Wick spin-off movie was announced. So when I saw her in this, it gave like a nice sign of things to come. Now I know a lot of people may not have enjoyed Ballerina as much as the other John Wick movies, but I loved her in it. I thought she was great. I actually kind of liked what they tried to do with the villain, but eventually it did get a little too cartoonish with Rami Malek with his role. He did a great job with his performance. I just thought the character itself, whatever was written on the page, was very, very bare and a little too basic. Rami Malek, I think, definitely added the things that are good about his character. I like the Billie Eilish song. I think she's great. I thought the Oscar for No Time to Die was definitely well deserved. And just the look of it, it definitely looked big. It looked like a James Bond movie, so the some of the important pieces were definitely there. Now, the things I didn't like, again, Elizabeth Swann and James Bond, zero chemistry. I don't buy it that she's his great love. I wish, I don't know why they brought in Christopher Waltz. I mean, he's there for 5 minutes, before he's taken out of the story. So I thought that was like a wasted opportunity. They try to bring him back as like this Hannibal Lecter type figure where they go and talk to him whenever they need answers about a case that they're working on. I actually didn't like the fact that they, gave James Bond a child, basically. I like the idea of it as something new, but it just doesn't fit with the whole James Bond mythos. And the fact that it's done with a female lead that has zero chemistry with, so I just didn't buy it. And I actually didn't like, spoilers, that he died at the end. I appreciate what it means, that it signifies like the end of this arc, but that's not what I want in a James Bond movie, and look, I'm all for trying new things and trying to put a twist on what has already been done at this point 20 plus times before, but that's one of the main intrigues of James Bond, is like it has this formula, or has this recipe, I should say, but like any great chef, how are you going to make that recipe unique and fresh? And so just adding new things for the sake of adding new things because you don't know what to do with the previous recipe, I just think is no good. Anyways, I still give it a 7 out of 10. I'll still watch it again. It has a pretty good rewatchable quality to it. And I look forward to the next James Bond iteration, directed by Denis Villeneuve, written by Stephen Knight. I don't know who's going to be James Bond. I really don't care because I think it has the right pieces in place to make for a great movie. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyways, what about you guys? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Smash that like button, give me a follow, and I'll see you guys next time.